Super excited to announce a new partner that I'm working with, Meat Locker Official. They are a meat company. They ship all kinds of meat. Go check out their website, meatlocker.com. It's amazing. Man, let me tell you, the bacon. The bacon's the best bacon I've ever had in my life. All the other meats are very good. I had a nice ribeye the other day, chicken breast, all kinds of stuff. The steaks and the bacon, though, for sure the best bacon I've ever had in my life. Meatlocker.com. Type in the code name Easton 2019. EASTON 2019, and you will receive 15% off of your order. Again, meatlocker.com. Get some bacon. Evo Labs products. Man, I love a couple of Evo Labs products that I like to use. I like to use their skin repair and intensive salve. Man, the skin repair is amazing for when I get like these little abrasions on my skin, and you're always worried about like whether you're going to get an infection or not, or how it's going to heal. Skin repair, Evo Labs skin repair. Go check them out, evolabs.com. And then 2, their intensive salve. Okay. Again, this is for like a little bit of soreness after I train at the end of the day. Rub it all over, like especially like my upper back and my arms, then my legs. Love it. Again, evolabs.com. I do also like their Meditate. It's a CBD pen where, at the end of the night, it helps me calm down, go to sleep, especially after like intense training during the day. So those 3 products are 3 of my favorite products from Evo Labs. 1, the skin repair, 2, the intense salve, and 3, the CBD pen. The Gospel Fire also brought to you by Onnit, ONNIT. Go to their website and man, go check out their products. Code name is Eliot. You put in Eliot, ELIOT, and you will get 10% off all of your Onnit products. I personally like the Alpha Brain. That is my favorite product, and every once in a while I like to use their Shroom Tech as well. So those 2 products are my favorite from Onnit. So again, Evo Labs guys at evolabs.com and Onnit, ONNIT. Check them out. Thanks for the support of the podcast from those guys, and hell yeah, let's get after it. Hey guys, this is former UFC fighter Eliot Marshall, and this is the Gospel of Fire, where we're going to go through the fire to learn how to live the best life possible. Guys, we're back to another episode of the Gospel of Fire with, man, my motherfucker that started it all with me back in the day. My first podcast, our first podcast, Scott Nickell. What up, homie?
What's up, man? This is like back in the day, except we're not sitting across the desk from each other like we used to.
I know. You moved to Kentucky, bro.
I know. My bad. My bad. It's good that we have technology.
It's good. There's a solid piece to this social media. I guess this would be considered social media, right?
Yeah, I would think so. We're being social, and we have to have a media to do it. So, yeah, I think it qualifies. Yeah, it qualifies as social media.
So, man, God, let's go over forever. I bet you most people don't know our story.
Yeah, I wouldn't think so.
I wouldn't think so. So, Scott and I ended up doing a podcast together. It was called The Saint and the Sinner. We're still trying to figure out who the saint of the situation is.
I don't think it's some elusive third person that wasn't a part of it.
Maybe it was Jay.
Yeah, he was probably the closest. He was definitely.
Yeah, it wasn't either one of us. That's for sure.
No.
But man, how did we meet, Scott? Like where we met? I think the first time we met was at like Dwayne's party, right?
Yeah, it's funny. It took me a second to remember that, but you're right. Me and my son Eli, who was real little at the time, we crashed a party at Dwayne Ludwig's. I think it was like his, I don't know, it was a retirement party or something?
No, I think it was going away party. He was moving to Sacramento, right? I don't know, a bowling alley, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was downtown Lucky Strike. Yeah. And Eli wasn't even supposed to be in there at that time of the day, but somehow we snuck him in, and you and I ended up talking for a few minutes.
I think we ended up standing next to each other for 30 minutes with a hello. We both knew who each other were. We definitely, with a hello of like, man, this motherfucker probably coming from both of us.
Yeah, I do remember that. Because I was there to hang out with Vinny Lopez a little bit, and I think we perhaps been around each other at some fights or something like that. But
Yeah, we've seen each other.
Yeah, for sure.
And tell everyone who you are. You are a pastor.
Yeah, so I'm a pastor. I preach on the weekends. That's kind of the main component of my job. I was at a church out there in Colorado called Flatirons Community Church up in Boulder County for 11 years. And I recently, about a year and 6 months exactly, moved back to my old Kentucky home, which is where I'm from. And I'm the teaching pastor at a church called Southland Christian Church here, which is kind of where I grew up. It's the first place I ever worked in ministry and that kind of thing. So
we disagree.
Sure.
We disagree. And on a lot of things, which we'll get into it, but so after that party, I think the next place that we actually hung out, right, was Cody Donovan had a fight in Vegas. We weren't friends yet at all. There was no friendship. Cody, and it's hard to make friends as an adult, right?
It's weird. Like, I mean, you get kind of accustomed to it as a kid because you're in new classrooms every year, I guess. But then as an adult, you don't really have to throw yourself into new situations all the time. So you don't often find yourself in situations where you kind of end up being friends with new people as much as an adult, I guess.
Dude, I'm about to try it, and I don't even know how to try it. Like, and we'll get back to us in a second.
You're going to try to make friends.
I'm going to try to make friends with somebody, right? Like, I live in Superior, right? Like the whitest fucking neighborhood that you could have. That is not my experience of life. Like white people only, right?
You've spent a lot of time in Boulder, though. You've got it down by now. Come on,
no, but hold on. What I'm saying is, like, growing up, like, I was around so many minorities, and this was a huge part of my life, like, which I think is very important for children. You know, like growing up to see how different people look differently and do things. You know?
Yes, I agree.
So like, I strive to try to have minority friends. You know, and man, there's this family that trains at the jiu-jitsu school, black dad, white mom, and the other day he came up to me, said something to me about my book that he like appreciated it, you know, like he'd been there, and then so that was like Wednesday, and then on Friday they do this thing called Night at the Rec. In our neighborhood, and I didn't even know that they lived in my neighborhood, and I'm dropping Kanan off. I got to fill out the paperwork for the first time, so I'm sitting there waiting for them to open, and the daughter, I'm looking at this little girl. I thought I recognized her, but I wasn't real sure because I've never actually taught her, you know. And then she comes over to me and she like puts her hand out and shakes my hand and goes, "Hi, Professor Marshall, how are you?" You know. And I was awesome. Like, damn. And then I talked to her a little bit, and she talked to me so well, bro, like so well that was parenting. Like, you know, like I was like, God damn. All right.
Probably the influence of the school a little bit, bro.
Yeah, maybe, but I'm not going to take most of the credit. I'm going to take most of the credit for the parents because they just started. They've only been around 6 months, you know, maybe a year. So I was like, damn, okay, that's who your mom and dad are. And I figured out who her mom and dad were. And I was like, oh man, all right, here I go. You know, so like I got his number the other day from one of our instructors who's friendly with him because he teaches a lot of the classes that he does. And I'm like, and I'm like waiting to text him because it's just like a little weird. Yeah. Right. Like, you know.
Yeah. You got to hold loosely to it. It's all about, you know, you can't have expectations. You can have hopes and dreams, but not expectations.
Yeah, man. You know how many black people I've tried to be friends with in my neighborhood and it went fucking south? You know?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you know, as an adult, it's just harder to make friends.
It's just harder to make friends. Yeah. It's just harder.
So me and you in a hotel room in Vegas.
Yeah. Me and you in a hotel room in Vegas. Ugh. Oh, God. Are you going to be able to keep your job after that?
You've probably talked to people about this before, but I mean, it is fight week for a fighter. We're both there for Cody. There's nothing glamorous about it. It's boring.
And it doesn't matter where you are.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. I mean, it's worse almost if you're in a place that's entertaining because you're not really going to get to go do any of it.
Because you can't do it, right? People don't understand how difficult it is, right? Because like you're there only and solely for the fighter. So if like you're not there when they need something, now you're fucking failing.
Yeah, and you had a specific role, obviously. I was just there because I'm friends with Cody, you know, so I had no idea what
Sure, he's not paying you.
No.
Yeah, so if you happen to miss, then you're just hanging out. He asked you to come hang out, right? But he's actually going to pay me. I don't know if I ever took it. I don't think I took any of his money. I hope I didn't.
You should. He probably owes you something at this point. Good Lord.
No, I don't know. I have kind of a rule too. I don't take if my fighter gets submitted, I don't take money.
Yeah.
Now, you know. So,
Yeah.
But anyway, I don't know. Either way, he was paying me, right? I don't,
Yeah.
you know, like he was technically paying me
You're a coach for him,
Right,
if nothing
right.
else. You're there for a reason.
for a reason. And then you and I just like talked the whole week and hit it off.
Yeah, it was funny because I remember us being in that hotel room with Cody and Leister and Christian, and I'm in there and we're just like talking and laughing like guys do, you know. And at some point, Leister, you know, being Leister, he tries to address the elephant in the room, which is that I'm a pastor. And, you know, you at the time were pretty I don't really know if you were really that like outspoken about it, but it was at least known that you considered yourself an atheist. And I don't remember what Leister did, but he somehow broached that subject. I feel like that's the way I remember it. That could be wrong.
Oh, I know. I know he does it. He does it the same way every time.
Yeah.
He gets real aggressive and he talks about babies and dying babies. And then he goes, don't pray for them, fucking do something about it.
Right.
You know? That's his broach.
Yeah, Leister has
awkward.
this way of always, and he did it even the last time I saw him, where I think he's always trying to see if he can possibly offend me, right. You know, and I'm not very easily offendable, you know, so I think that's why I was probably able to always kind of hang with Leister too, you know.
For sure. The offended don't hang with us.
Yeah, for sure.
It doesn't work like that. Yeah, it can't happen. Just we're too, especially like with our friends. I would say we're too offensive.
To some.
Oh no, to our like you know like if you get offended easily, like you're just probably not our friend, not like our close friend. Like the Voxer that we have going on right now. Like Vinny and I are screaming at each other. He's calling me a dickhead. I'm saying fuck you. But Vinny and I also have this other thread that we're talking about like actual real world stuff where it's fine.
Yeah.
You know, like you know, but who cares? Like so it's like one of those things like but I only have 2 threads like that. I don't do that with everyone.
No, you can't.
Yeah. And I have plenty of friends that I don't go near stuff like that with, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, so we ended up hanging out that whole weekend, and I think everybody, honestly, I really do feel like most of the people, especially Cody, were kind of braced for like, how are Eliot and Scott going to get along, you know? And by the end of the weekend, we ended up flying back together. And by the end of the weekend, I think we could say we were friends, you know?
Yeah. Not even acquaintances, friends.
No, I really felt like we were friends by the time we left that weekend, you know?
I think I went home and told Renee, I was like, I think I made a new friend with like a fucking pastor who I don't agree, like, you know?
Yeah.
And she was like, really? And I was like, yeah, you know, I'm pretty sure I did. So it's
after that, I don't really remember like what our kind of next interactions were or whatever, but we just became buds. So.
Yeah. I don't remember either. And then we started this podcast.
Yeah.
You know, we started this podcast called The Saint and the Sinner. And we wanted to show, which I still like want to talk about like today, because I think this is supremely important and where we fuck up. Just all of us, you know, me included, you included probably, you know?
Yep.
We started this podcast to show how 2 guys that agree on absolutely nothing on the surface, right, can actually be friends and get along.
Yeah, I mean, really, I think the way we phrased it was we've always been surprised at how many things we do agree with one another on. But then there's also significant, like huge things that we disagree on. But you and I have always had this ability to disagree with one another passionately and still be friends. And like you and I can yell at each other. We can argue at each other. We can get mad at each other and we're still friends. Like I never feel like that's on the table with you. You know what I mean? Like I never feel like at any moment that I'm going, oh, well, if our friendship's in jeopardy if this continues. I've never felt that way. You know?
Me either. Look, hold on. Let's explain what we're talking. Like I'm not calling your wife a whore. And you're, and you're not telling me how you slept with mine. You know,
we're not,
like
not calling each other's kids' names and stuff like that. You know, that's not what's happening. But we disagree on big, important things. You know,
really, you know, big, important things. Yes, that end most people's friendships these days.
Foundational stuff. Yeah, I mean, people can't talk about politics and religion, and those are 2 things we talk about all the time.
And I think money too, right? It's hard to talk about money with your friends.
Right. That's right.
You know. Like it's super hard to talk about money. And like, I mean, I don't think you know specifically how much I make and I don't know how specifically much you make, but I think I would love for you to make more if that's what you wanted. And I would, and like if you needed to talk to me or I needed to talk to you about a situation, like there would be no jealousy.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
There would be no jealousy. So I think, and these are the only kinds of friends I can really have personally. Like it's hard for me to do any other type of friends.
Yeah. Where there's rivalry, there's really not friendship, rivalry gets in the way big time.
Yeah, for sure. So we started this podcast and it kind of went south.
Yeah, it was interesting. I can look back at it now and see the flaw from the beginning. Yeah. Both in our assumptions of how it would go, and I think in the manner in which we did it. You know what I mean? Like the thing that was missing, like we set up this big platform, right? Like we had social media that went with it. Like we told everybody about it. We're like, come listen to this thing. We're gonna argue with one another, but we're friends and we're gonna remain friends. And the thing that I think slowly unraveled was we realized that, especially on the social media platform, people were just mean to each other, man. And they were getting really hot and bothered like people do on social media.
And sometimes they'd get hot and bothered at us and we would respond.
Oh, yeah.
Right. We would respond,
And it started chewing up significant amounts of time. And then you and I would have these phone conversations or face-to-face conversations about should we interact with this person or should we kick them off the page?
Yeah.
Or, but the thing that I think we finally realized was me and you have a relationship that holds us together so that when there's strain or, argument, we still have a relationship. These people who were watching the podcast or listening to the podcast and then interacting, whether it be on social media or in real life, they didn't have relationship, many of them with us, but especially with one another. So they were actually demonstrating the opposite of what we were trying to accomplish with the podcast.
Sure. They were trying to win arguments.
Yes.
With no working out afterwards, like you and I were going to breakfast.
Yeah, like me and you would do. Yeah, we would do the podcast. We'd work out. We'd go to breakfast. We'd train jujitsu.
Yeah.
We'd go do all that. And nobody got to see that part. We told people about it, but nobody got to see that part.
They only saw the arguing.
That's right. And you and I, when we started it, man, we came really cocked and loaded. Like I remember the first few episodes, like we both had like notes and our computers out and we were just going after each other. And then
the podcast started with me asking you if I'm going to hell and then you say yes and then the music.
That's right. Yeah. Which was based on a conversation that we had in Las Vegas. Right. That was a key moment, for us, but on the surface, it doesn't translate as well for everybody else.
No. Yeah.
So yeah, it unraveled. And, by the end, you and I were mostly just sitting around and talking about sports and jiu-jitsu and MMA and things like that and our kids. We weren't really arguing as much towards the end. And then we just kind of realized like, okay, I think thing's run its course.
I had my breakdown.
Well, that's true. You did have a panic attack in the middle of our last episode.
Yeah.
You've been our last one.
I think so. Remember. No, we did a couple more.
Yeah,
I did a couple more, but I had mini panic attacks in each one. Like I kept it together enough, but it was going ugly in every one after that. And then I kind of went my way,
Yeah, well, it was one of those things where it's like, who cares about this podcast? Let's get you figured out.
Well, I wasn't sleeping, right? Like, that was my breakdown. I wasn't sleeping, and for us to like find time to do the podcast, we were doing it at like 6 a.m. in Boulder, and sometimes I wouldn't fall asleep till 5:30. So fuck that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I wasn't waking up. I wasn't getting up to go do the podcast after 15 minutes of sleep.
Well, when you're not sleeping, anyone is crazy. So that's probably not the best time to record your words.
Yeah. No. It's the problem with Trump, right? He tweets at like 3 a.m. You're like, dude.
Absolutely. You have no sleep. Already. Yeah, that's right.
Somebody take that guy's fucking phone away. Like I don't even think he believes half the shit he tweets.
I know. I think he's just trolling most of the time.
Right? Like what was the one the other day? Democrats hate Jews? Oh my God. Come on, man. You don't really believe that, do you?
I don't even pay attention, to be quite honest.
It just came across my radar. Yeah, I don't know. Me either. Me either. So, man, but I think this topic is something that is worth looking into. Like for example, I want to use Jordan Peterson. And I use him a lot. Like, goddamn, there are some things that motherfucker says that are just, in my opinion, gold.
Yeah, I agree.
And then there are these other things that he says that, in my opinion, are just misogynistic and not thought out well. And like, fuck, man, come on, you can't think like that.
Yeah, I mean, you and I probably, the things that we disagree with him on are probably different, but I disagree with him on a lot of stuff, and I agree with him on a lot of stuff.
Right, me too.
And so I find him to be really useful in that sense, and helpful.
Oh, I find him extremely helpful.
Yep.
Because it makes me even think about like the things that I disagree about him with. Like I get better at like my opinions and my feelings get stronger. About stuff like that. So, or not stronger, or it makes me at least go do the research.
Yeah, look into it.
It makes me look into it. Like, what did he make me look into? He made me look into the wage gap thing, which was interesting.
Oh, yeah, that's a really interesting one.
It's a really interesting one. You know what I mean? Like, it made me
It's not as simple.
It's not as simple as women make less than men.
No, it's absolutely not that simple.
It is not that simple. There are things like agreeableness that we talk about a lot, right? Like, like we are way more willing to be way disagreeable.
Yeah, and men do different jobs than women.
Yes,
they go to they do different degree programs than women. They work riskier jobs and longer hours, not because they're better or worse, just because they tend to have different priorities.
Well, it probably makes us worse, right? I would like
in some ways, sure. If I'm willing to be a neurosurgeon at the cost of my family, right? That's going to cost. I'm going to have to work 80, 90 hours a week sometimes, right? You know. And men are more willing to do that typically, not always, than women.
Yeah.
And so they're going to make more money.
Like my wife is always concerned about like spending time with the kids in the summertime.
Right.
Like it always comes up on her plate about like how she's going to move her schedule around. And look, I think I'm a pretty good dad and it doesn't even cross my mind. Like I know when I'm going to do it, but I'm going to do it the same times that I do it now, except now like at 2:00 or 1:00 in the afternoon when I'm home and they're not home because they're in school. Well, all right, now it will be with them. I won't be working on whatever or like watching this or that, like looking on the fucking internet, whatever I'm doing.
Yeah, you brought up the agreeableness thing. It's just, men are more willing, typically, not always, to go fight for a salary increase or a wage increase, So there's a million different factors in there.
And it's something that we have to address, too.
Sure.
Like, if women are doing the same job as men, they need to get paid the exact same.
Absolutely. And have the same competence levels. So if you're doing the same job and you're doing it just as well as the dude across the hall, then you should be paid the same.
You should be getting paid yes. You know what I mean? Like equal work, equal pay, right?
Yep.
100%, without a doubt. Do I want to see more? I would love to see as many women CEOs as possible. I think it's great.
I would love to see as many women CEOs as want to be CEOs.
Yes.
And are qualified to be CEOs.
Yes.
So if there's any false barriers in there, we need to get rid of them for sure.
He has some really great points, like equal opportunity, not equal outcomes.
Yeah, if you fight for equal outcomes, that's different than trying to create equal opportunities.
Yeah, it's the equal outcomes thing is god awful.
Yeah,
it's
then we all fall to the lowest common denominator is basically what he says.
Yeah. So, but there are some things. Yeah, there are some things like for example, like the whole in his book where he starts going off about masculine is order and femininity is chaos.
Yeah, that one really bothers a lot of people.
It fucking kills me, man. It fucking kills me. But look, I'm not going to throw out rule number 6, get your house in order before you criticize the world. Just because he said this one really dumb thing, in my opinion, we're not going to get into like the arguing of that, right? But it's just because he said this really dumb thing. Doesn't mean that
the whole thing out.
Yeah, you don't tell me one person, Scott, that you agree with 100% of the time.
Yeah, I've yet to find that person.
How about yourself? Do you agree with yourself 100% of the time?
No, on any given day, you might see me change my mind.
Exactly. This is the point, right? This is the fucking point, man.
Yep.
So
yeah, and so I think it's really, it's kind of lost in our, culture, especially with social media being the kind of echo chamber that it is. You can just live in this world where you have your own thoughts validated repeatedly, and then it becomes such a shock to you when you find out someone thinks differently than you. And that is one of the things that I think Jordan Peterson has done is for some people, the things he says are so shocking. Even some of the most what seem to be common sense things that he says are so shocking to people that they can't get past them. And that's because they tend to live in an echo chamber where they've never even heard these things before. And you and I have talked about this. I I really like Sam Harris. I listen to his podcast. I've read most of his books, Clearly, I disagree with Sam Harris on significant things as well, but I dig the guy, So I listen to him, and I think that's important for people to do.
I emailed him yesterday.
Did you get a response?
Fuck no, not yet. I have the contact at samharris.org,
Yeah.
I emailed him,
Good luck with that.
Fuck, man.
I bet that one gets a lot of people.
Yeah, of course. The first you get an automated email back. Sam can't respond to all. Hello, I can't respond to all of my supporters. Blah blah blah. Fuck you. No, not really. Sam, are you listening? Come on, let's do this.
Have him come to Easton and roll with you, man. He trains. Man. So
this is the thing, but you got to get to them.
That's right.
Right. You have to get to them is the thing. Yeah. You and I disagree with you on a lot of things. Yeah. Right. Yep. And Vinny thinks it's him, but it's not. And I call to hear your opinion sometimes.
Sure.
And I don't even agree with it all the time.
Yeah.
Right.
I would expect you to.
Yeah. I don't even agree with it. But just for me, the fleshing of things out for me, even when I hear the exact opposite of what I think, I'm like, all right, it makes my thought process clearer.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then I don't get mad at you.
Yeah, and even if you do a little bit, which honestly, I don't really feel like you and I get mad at each other hardly ever. I mean, I might get frustrated where I go, come on, Eliot, you're not listening to me. You didn't hear me right. And I'm sure you get frustrated with me.
Right.
But again, there's no real tension of like, oh man, he's not going to be my friend anymore. Yeah. It's not there.
It's not there. So how did you get into this religious path? How do you, how do I ask this question correctly? How do you mitigate that with the world? A little bit it's not fucking 2000 AD BC.
Right.
We're 4,000 years from that.
Right. Yeah. For me, I grew up, my story a little bit. My parents were divorced right after I was born. And so it was just kind of me and my mom. And then I would visit my dad every now and then on the weekends, that kind of thing. And my mom raised me in different kind of church experiences. And then I spent significant amounts of time with my grandparents and then obviously with my dad on the weekends. And so I had all these kind of different religious experiences, within the realm of Christianity. So Catholic Church, Baptist Church, Pentecostal, people flailing in the aisles and dancing and speaking in tongues, that kind of thing growing up. And really my only real perspective on all three of those when I was, middle school age was it's all weird and boring. And irrelevant and all that kind of thing. And it wasn't until, kind of later in middle school and high school when some folks in a youth group type setting actually communicated the Bible to me in a way that I could understand, that kind of thing. That became something I really started to explore and became something that I really wanted to look into was who is this Jesus guy that everybody's talking about, So I did that. And then long story short, I was helping in the inner city here in Lexington. I was doing this thing in the summers when I was in high school where we would go downtown and basically create an opportunity for here's all these kids who they don't really have anywhere to go now that school's out in the summer. They're not getting a lot of food, that kind of thing. And we would hang out and play kickball and play games and stuff like that and hang out with them at a place called Johnson Elementary School, one of the poorer schools in town. And I realized through that interaction two things. One, I liked kids, and two, I could kind of communicate well. I could kind of lead and communicate well. And so I had some people tell me, hey man, I think you should think about going into ministry. And for me, I was like, man, I don't want to do that. I want to be like a sports broadcaster, which apparently is a really hard field to get into because those guys live for forever and they hold their jobs for forever. So good luck with that, Well,
they wanted to be athletes, right? And then it didn't happen, and now they just hang around athletes. Yeah,
I mean, I wanted to be an athlete too. Michael Jordan was my idol, but I turned out to be a 5'10" white guy, strangely enough. So that didn't turn out well for me. I ended up going to Bible college, which wasn't really my thing. I didn't enjoy being in only Christian settings. Like, that's just not my cup of tea, which sounds strange, I guess, for a pastor to say, but it seemed like a necessary evil in some way, shape, or form. So I went to Bible college, but I started working in ministry, doing kids ministry, and did that for like 6 years. And then I started working with high school students. And then when I moved out to Boulder, I was preaching on the weekends at Flatirons for 11 years. And that's what I continue to do here. So that's the first answer to your question, a real short version of it. As far as I think what you're asking me is like, how do I reconcile my faith or Christianity with the modern world? Is that kind of what you're asking?
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm asking. Good job.
Yeah, I mean, I really believe that, Jesus's words specifically are as absolutely relevant today as they were the day that he spoke them 2,000 years ago. And the more I study about Jesus and the more I know Jesus, the more I realized, man, he spoke into the deepest longings of people's hearts and also spoke about incredibly practical things. And so for me, what I try to do is I just try to speak real truth to real people in real ways. And so a lot of times what people have heard from the Bible, it gets kind of lost in either a really boring communicator or kind of an archaic King James version type of language that makes everybody's eyes gloss over because they don't understand what the heck that person's talking about or saying. And so I just tend to talk to real people in real ways about real things and go, man, Jesus addressed this issue, and people lean in when you talk in a normal way that people can understand. I mean, it's something you and I've talked about before in regards to like presidential candidates, right? Like politicians who just talk in ways people can understand, get people to lean in. A lot of politicians, it makes people's eyes gloss over because nobody knows what the heck they're talking about half the time, right?
It's the Obama effect.
Yeah, he was really good at being able to just talk in a way that people could go, yeah, I understand what he's actually talking about, So that's what I've seen is I tell people all the time, I'm not writing the mail, I'm just delivering it. I'm standing there with a Bible and here's my understanding of what it says and here's how I think that relates to your life and here it is. And so you can take it or leave it. You don't have to do it, but here's what I think.
Yeah, it's interesting too because I don't think you don't like you. It's really I wouldn't take you as a typical pastor.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I take that as a compliment.
Yeah, and you guys say it all the time. Like you just said, you don't like hanging out with Christians.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like hanging out in Christian bubbles. There's plenty of Christians I love and I hang out with.
So what does that mean, and why do you not like it?
Well, I'm not your typical. I'm a kind of ill-begotten pastor, I guess. Like I was not the kid who in Sunday school class had a little old lady pat me on the head and say, you should be a pastor one day. I was the one who got kicked out for stealing the offering and the donuts,
Right.
And I got kicked out of a Christian school in ninth grade that my mom had sent me to, and then went to a big public high school and loved every minute of it and developed great friendships and things like that. And at the same time, my faith actually became real during that time. And so I always tell people I had to get out of a Christian school so I could actually become a Christian. And so to go back to one of those in Bible college, it's just a weird environment where it's kind of an echo chamber. Like you're only hearing confirmation. You're not hearing a lot of challenges, at least the one I went to. I'm sure there's some great ones out there, but at the time there wasn't a whole lot of challenges to faith. It was just a bunch of Christians hanging out together. And that, for me at that time, at the level of maturity I was in, I just didn't like that. I'm a rule breaker by nature, and that can be good and that can be bad. And so being in an environment that has a ton of rules that can kind of lean towards being legalistic wasn't something that was great for my soul. But I'm sure I know there were some great things I took away from that, but it was really challenging.
My wife's a rule breaker too. She drives me fucking nuts.
My wife's a rule follower, and she drives me nuts.
She drives you nuts. Yeah. I'm like, God damn it, babe. Like the biggest thing she drives me fucking nuts with is when she makes something really good. And I'm like, hey, can you make that again just like that? And she's like, I don't know if I can.
She didn't do the rest.
She didn't do anything. Right?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't follow instructions when I assemble something either. I don't look at that at all. I just start winging it,
Yeah, so does she. But then she wants me to come help. And I'm like,
no, that's a bad call. Yeah, that's a bad call.
Like, yeah, you have to ride that out with yourself.
Yeah, Allie and I almost got divorced when we got home from our honeymoon because we tried to put together a gas grill that somebody gave us for our wedding together, and it literally almost ended our marriage. I don't think we've tried to assemble something together since.
Yeah, Renee and I've learned, we've learned not to do things like that together. And I've learned, if we're going to do something, as simple, you and I are standing across from each other with a long table.
Right? Yeah.
And we're going to move it over there to my right, your left. Yeah,
it's got to be super simple. I agree.
No. I have to ask her which way is she going to turn, so then therefore I can make it correct.
Yes.
Right.
It's probably going to be the opposite.
It's going to be the opposite of what I would do, and
Yes.
and then she'll tell me that I'm wrong. I'm like, no, babe, I was just going to walk backwards instead of forwards, and neither one of us is wrong in the situation.
Yeah, you're just different.
We're just different. So
right.
now I don't even start. I'm like, which way are you going to go, baby?
You're an extroverted person by definition, or are you extroverted? Dude, you have to be.
I don't know, man. So we were just talking about this the other day. I am extroverted, but
I think you are too.
Hold on, but I need my time alone.
Yeah, that may just be your maturity level though, and the fact that you're extroverted and you're around a lot of people all day, so you actually spend your extroversion throughout the day.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I could do it all day.
Right.
I could do it all fucking day. But we're going to Hawaii next week. We're going to Hawaii on Wednesday. My parents are going to be there. That drives me a little insane.
Yeah.
Because I want to be alone when I go away.
Yeah, but I've hung out with you enough that when we're together, you and I are totally different. You'll talk to strangers.
All the
You'll
time.
engage conversation. I don't ever do that.
Right.
Well, not never, but not very often.
I'm talking to the waiter. I'm talking to the
Yes.
hostess. I'm talking to the guy that's like the dudes at Whole Foods.
Yes.
I'm 15 minutes of extra time at Whole Foods because I'm saying hello to everyone and talking to people.
Yeah, that is 100% not me.
Yeah, no. So I'm extroverted, but I do need my alone time to to recharge. So it's kind of this weird extroversion, I guess.
Yeah, it sounds to me like just a mature version of extroversion, because extroverts who are immature will just drive themselves nuts,
And that, excuse me, and sometimes I think that leads to drug use and all that kind of stuff, right?
Well, yeah, all kinds of things.
Because you're like, I got to stay up. I want to go do this. Fuck yeah, it's a party.
For sure. Fear of missing out, right?
Yeah, for sure. My wife said something else the other day. Not fear of missing out, the opposite. Something else, not FOMO, but I don't know.
Eager to miss out, or
hoping to miss out.
Hoping to miss out.
Something, yeah, but homo doesn't work. I don't know what it is. But man, it's what's really interesting, I think, is how you and I, for example, the topic of free will, which is what we're talking about. I am more of a determinist, and you obviously have, you don't have to. You believe in free will,
right?
But I want to say our conclusion at the end is the same, like how we raise our children, But the logic that we use to get there is different.
Yeah, and there's two things I think that are in play there. One is, and I think you would freely admit this, you can't live your life in such a way as if you had no choice. You still have to navigate life. You have to. So that application is going to look very similar regardless of whether we really have free will or whether we're totally robots or whatever, and then the other thing is we're both dads, we're both husbands, we're both men, so we're going to have some of the same concerns, passions, cares, loves, desires, so we both want to take good care of our kids. We both want to honor our wives. We both want to
do it similarly.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yep. I agree.
Sorry, I dropped something.
Oh, you're good.
And I heard a great quote the other day about raising kids and why it's getting worse a little bit. Because we no longer helicopter parent. We lawnmower parent. We cut down all of the obstacles that are in our children's way and let them just walk this smooth path.
That's a good metaphor. There's a book out there, I think you and I have talked about it, called The Coddling of the American Mind.
Yeah, it's on my list.
That addresses this like ad nauseum. Rogan had one of the authors on his podcast, and
that dude did such a good job on Rogan because I think Rogan sometimes like he leans a little more to the harsher side of the argument, and that guy, what was the guy's name? Fuck, hold on.
Jonathan Haidt, I think.
Yeah, Jonathan Haidt. Yep. Jonathan Haidt. Something like that. Yep. No, you're right, because I'm listening to the Johan Hari podcast right now, and that kept those names are so close, right? Like,
yeah.
But yeah, it's Jonathan Haidt, and that dude brought it back to like this reasonable center place, in my opinion. Really, really well on Rogan's podcast. Like that might be one of the best podcasts I've ever listened to.
Well, and the thing that I think they did such a good job in the book of pointing out is like what we've set up, and specifically they're really concerned about in the university setting, is if you wanted to create an environment that would lead people to mental illness, you would do all the things we're doing in universities right now. If you like wanted to say, let's make people neurotic and sensitive and depressed, you would do all the things we're currently doing. And one of those things is, as you said, eliminating all the obstacles to hearing anything contrary to what you already believe, because the idea that you're potentially wrong on something is a harmful idea to you. So our kids perceive being harmed in a far different way than any other generations ever have.
It's really interesting. Kanan was mad at me the other day because it was 2 weeks, not this weekend that just passed, but the weekend before. He had 2 birthday parties, one on Saturday and one on Sunday. And the one on Saturday, like, I don't know, I was really tired for some reason, so I took a nap. And I was like, hey, wake me up so that we can, get ready to go at this time. And he missed it. So, I'll take some blame for that.
Sure.
And he didn't wake me up on time, and then I had to help him get ready. Like there's the little gift bag thing that he had, and it was somewhere where he couldn't reach it, so I had to go down in the basement and help him and yada yada. But I told him, I was like, hey, tomorrow, homie, this is all going to be on you.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm glad to help you if you ask me at a time when we are not rushed.
Yeah.
So we're going to leave tomorrow. And then when I woke him up in the morning, I was like, hey, don't forget tomorrow at 10:30. I don't even remember what time it was, 9:30, whatever it was. You have to be asking me for help. And if you're not asking me for help at that time, then I'm not going to be helping you.
Yeah.
Like you're going to have to figure it all out on your own. And, push came to shove and he didn't ask me. And the bags were still where the bags were. And he was like, I was like, dude, I don't know what the fuck. I don't know what. I didn't say fucking. But, I was like, I don't know what to tell you, man. Like, it's on you.
Yeah.
And he's like, but I can't get it. And he's trying. I was like, first of all, don't you ever raise your voice to me. Second of all, I don't know, man. Get a chair, get something, stack some shit up, And then anyway, like it fell down. I still wouldn't go down and help him. Like he got it all together. And he was super fucking mad at me, right? Like super mad. And then I was taking him somewhere on like Tuesday, and he's like, and I was like, hey man, who's the most annoying one in the family? We were just like joking around. He's like, oh, it's so you. And I was like, really?
Sure, yeah.
I'm like, okay, why is it me? He's like, well, look what you did to me on Sunday. Oh, I was like, what I did to you. I think you're using the wrong word there. What I did for you.
Right.
Right. He's like, what do you mean? I'm like, dude, what do you think? I'm going to be here for the rest of your life? I'm going to be able to help you out of every situation, and then we like got into like my dad's life because my dad had an awful life, like heating water for a bath on the stove and taking it to the bathtub, like just a shitty fucking life, And,
well, I read stats the other day on the percentage of parents that call to wake their college students up so they don't miss class.
What?
Yeah. Parents calling their kids. So you're at the state university, wherever you are. And mom calls you to, hey, dear, make sure you get up. It's time to go to your 8 o'clock class.
This is the worst. Like, yeah.
Is that not unbelievable?
And how are they going to be, we were on that thread talking about millennials, making fun of them, right? But they didn't have a fucking choice.
It's not their fault.
How the fuck is that their fault?
Yeah, the parents have been doing this, right? Yeah.
A blob has been popping out of a woman for thousands and thousands of years now. It's the same blob. It's the same type of blob. With it's us who's fucking that up.
My mom has worked in education world for forever, universities and stuff like that, grad school, that kind of stuff, and she will tell you that in the past 10 years, the amount of parents who call about the grades of not their undergrad students, their master's degree level students, and complain about their grades on their behalf is absurd. One would be too many, right?
One is absurd.
Yeah, one is absurd, but it's common.
What? Oh my! This is like terrible.
It's good intentions gone bad, right?
No, it's yeah, sure, but at some point, does the mom jerk the kid off too?
I'd hate to know the answer to that.
But
question.
it's a good question. Like, honey, you're not doing it right. Let me help you. Like, where does that stop? That logic?
I think it's there's a codependency part, right?
Yeah.
Where parents just can't let their kids go, and then there's also I want my kid to win, but what we don't realize is we're actually making our kids lose in significant ways. The only way to learn how to win is to go through adversity and lose, right?
Yeah,
so that's hard to watch, and it's hard to manage and be a part of in the moment. But boy, it's so important. And we've talked about this a million times. That's why martial arts, wrestling, sports, all those things can be so valuable if they're applied in the right way.
It's why it's rule number one for my kids. Yeah, like they have to do it because there's just so much losing involved.
Right.
There's so much of it. Like because you don't even get lucky. When you're.
Oh yeah. I've told this story before, but when Eli wrestled, I didn't know that 4-year-olds could wrestle, and he was crazy when he was 4. And so when I found that out, I was like, oh, thank you. Someone where he can get this energy out, this aggression out. When he went to his first tournament, he won his first 5 matches, which was the worst thing ever that could have happened. Right. So he thought he was God's gift to wrestling. And then the first one he lost, and I think Vinny was actually there when this happened, he lost his mind. He started hitting the other kid. He started screaming, he just lost his mind. And, that was hard to watch, but man, he needed that.
Yeah. It was hard then.
That. Oh yeah, it was brutal and it was embarrassing and it was all those things. But it was like, man, the only thing I would change is I just wish he would have lost sooner.
Sure. Yeah, sure. You wish that would have been the first one.
Oh yeah, 100%, 100%. I remember thinking this is not good. He keeps winning. This is bad.
This is bad. Yeah. Yeah. Fuck, but you know what I mean? Like you'll end up putting the dishes away for your whole life if you don't let them break some dishes.
Their laundry.
Like, yeah. I guess we don't make our kids fold their laundry like that. I think mostly because Simon's too young still. Can Silas fold his laundry yet or no?
Silas is 9, and yes.
No. So Bo, I'm sorry, Bo.
Bo doesn't. No, we try to get him to try to get him to put his laundry away. He doesn't do a great job at it. He just stuffs it in drawers and not in the right place. But he's on the path.
So we we solved this problem.
Yeah,
it works. So I put it in piles, like only short sleeve, you know what I mean? Okay, but you're only allowed to take one pile at a time, but Dad, I can take more. Yeah, you can take more, but you won't take more correctly. I get
That's
it.
Right.
Yeah, so you can take your shirts. Yes, So yeah, and that's hard, right? But you have such older kids too. Like my kids, I think are slightly close enough in age that getting one to do one, and you have 4, so there's tons of things. There's tons of things.
15-year-old. And the 13-year-old, they have a pretty heavy load. They do a whole lot of things around the house, but that's the path we've had them on, just increased responsibility over time, and it's important for them. For me, growing up, in the house with a single mom, I had to learn how to do a whole lot of things, because she just wasn't around that often. So I knew how to cook and do laundry and all that kind of stuff at a really young age, and that's served me well.
Dude, I watched some shit the other day about these kids in fucking Africa who, like the 1-year-olds, can go to the river and get water.
Dude, I've been there. I've seen it. It's crazy to watch. There'll be a community, either river or a water spigot in the middle of the community, and you'll see and I kid you not when I say this, you'll see a 4-year-old holding the hand of an 18-month-old, and they'll be dragging jugs to the water spigot and back, and there's no parent anywhere near them, nowhere near them. That's just what they have to do. And they learn it at a really young age. It's crazy.
So it can be done.
Oh, it 100% can be done.
It can be done for sure, you know?
Yeah.
And it's not like you have some extraordinary 18-month-old, right? It's every 18
No, not at all. Not at all. And these are kids without shoes on, you know, I mean, they're not eating nearly the way our kids do, you know, I mean, it's impressive when you see it. It
and
really
obviously
is.
We're going to the extreme there, right? I don't think we're telling anybody to make your 18
Just saying what's possible.
Yes. You know, what's possible in the human condition.
Yeah. It's necessary.
It's necessary.
Like,
yeah. You know,
right.
And I was trying to teach Kanan that lesson with you know, when I was talking to him about my dad, right? Like, dude, like this was necessary. He calls my dad Beeps. You know, this was necessary for Beeps. Like nobody had to make Beeps' life hard. It was just hard. Like, you know, so his parents didn't need to teach him all this stuff. I was like, dude, you go to Hawaii twice a year.
Yeah. The challenge for me and you is to make our kids' life hard.
Hard. Yeah. Yeah. It's got to be hard. You know, we have to make it harder. And so often we like, now look, in the big things, like, are they going to eat? Are they going to be nourished? Are they going to get the best education? You know, are they going to try? Are we going to get them to the sports league where they will lose? Mm-hmm. You know, because like in my neighborhood, no, he's not losing anytime soon against like the kids in like Boulder County. But he's obsessed with basketball. They're all fucking white. You know,
he's big. Yeah,
he's the biggest one. You know, and he's not afraid. So I have to take him. I have to like search out places for him to play sports where he's going to get destroyed.
Absolutely.
You know, so that's the, like, you know, I'm trying to present the opportunity for him to have hard things. You know, So that's our job.
Things. Yeah, we have to put obstacles in their path. You know, so that their path isn't mowed over for them.
It's so crazy. It doesn't comprehend in my head, like the whole college admissions thing. I haven't read the whole thing. Did you hear that? Like people paying some dude, like some guy made $7 million.
Well, yeah, with the actors and everything paying their way. Yeah, just so they can get a pseudo degree or whatever.
What the fuck, man?
Yeah, I don't understand it either. Like, I guess it's because their kids want to go have a college experience or something like that, but they don't.
But what is it with the making your kid's life so easy?
It hasn't panned out well. Like if you look at second generation, you know, wealthy families and of movie stars and things like that, it doesn't usually go well. You know, their parents are the ones who had to fight and scrap and build and, you know, and then they got everything handed to them. And consequently, they have major character flaws.
Like, but it just seems so obvious.
It does seem obvious. It sure does. But I think that's where the good intentions thing comes in. Like if me and you become multimillionaires tomorrow, there'd be some temptations there to give our kids more and more and more. And we would have to really think even harder about how to make their life difficult in the right ways at the right times. Right.
Yeah, for sure.
But this, I think you're demonstrating. Me and you tend to agree on a lot of this stuff. You know,
like, dude, I fly first class for the most part when I'm by myself. You know, like I
don't blame you.
What's that? I'm huge.
You're a big dude. Yeah, I don't blame you.
I'm huge. Like I have a dollar amount per hour of the plane ride that I won't spend above. You know, but not with my kids.
Yeah.
Right. I sit back there with them and coach.
Right.
You know, and I don't do it for the food. The food sucks. I don't do it for the service. It's literally just for the space.
Yeah.
You know, and if you time it right, most of the time you can get like, it's like $150. You know, and if you have, you know, like for a 4-hour flight, $150 for you, that probably never makes sense because now you're just talking about food and, you know, but
there's been times where I've been coming back from like a mission trip or something like that, and
now we're talking.
You walk past all these people who are laying down in their pods, and you're like, great, I get 10 hours back there with, you know, 6 inches between my knee and, you know, the seat in front of me. This is going to be great. And at that point, I would almost throw down any amount of money just to be able to lay down.
Yes, I probably do most of the time. You know, I probably do, but like that wasn't always the case. I used to have to suffer back and coach.
Yeah,
you know, and for me, it's like real, like it's fucking brutal. You know, like it's fucking brutal. Just the sheer size of me. Vinny called me fat the other day, motherfucker.
He did.
Right? He did call me fat. I sent him a picture with a fucking 6 to 8 pack, and he's like, "You fat fuck."
Well, I told you not to do that. I told you he's making his living off of nitpicking the appearance of people's bodies. He's very judgmental.
He is. All right, let's talk about some real shit before we go.
Yeah, man.
March Madness, homie.
Yeah, you know what? As we're sitting here, I've got my TV on in my office with the volume off, watching the SEC tournament that's going on right now.
You watch the SEC, yeah. I don't even touch
ACC's
the SEC.
on too. Yeah.
I watch the ACC, yeah.
Yep.
You know.
Yep. You're a North Carolina fan. I'm a Kentucky fan.
We both might get number 1 seeds.
And we both hate Duke, so we
both hate
we
Duke.
have that in common.
Yes, we both hate Duke. First, Duke's the love him or hate him, right? Duke's the love him or hate him. Like,
yeah, we have a mutual friend who loves them, Troy, and I don't understand why. But, oh well.
Yeah, why?
No, he's Southern. He's from Georgia, and he just randomly picked Duke. This is one of the things that drives me nuts when guys just randomly pick someone, especially someone like Duke, because they're good, right? You know,
of course,
want to pick them. You know.
My random pick was North Carolina, but that was Michael Jordan. Yeah. So then, like, everything that Jordan touches is what when I was a kid was like gold. So okay, I loved Michael Jordan. But yes, I mean, and the UK thing makes sense. You're unfortunately stuck in Kentucky.
I grew up here, man. I grew up here. For whatever people know about being like a Bronco fan, if you live in Denver, and how crazy that can get. I've tried to explain, like, now make a whole state where there's no pro sports.
You have nothing.
We have the University of Kentucky, and then there's this little section carved out for Louisville, you know, but the whole state, this is what we have, man. So it's a big deal.
And you guys were good at basketball early.
Yeah. And have been for generations, you know.
So, but yeah, it's going to be interesting. It's good. This is going to be a good tournament because there's a lot of good teams, you know.
There are, and I think this year the number 1 seed really matters because I feel like you don't want to get the bad matchups early. You want to wait. You want to see who else gets knocked out and not have to play somebody too difficult till the Sweet 16.
So I think the only 2 people that have the opportunity maybe for one. I mean, no, I guess it could happen if both Carolina and Virginia lose.
It's weird in the ACC,
but
man. I mean,
not to each other.
Right.
But then look, if Duke wins the ACC, if Zion comes back and Duke wins the ACC,
they have a 1.
Duke's going to get the number 1 overall seed.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You know.
Yep.
Because you have 2 of the top 5 teams in the country all in the ACC.
Well, and
3. I'm sorry, 3.
Yeah, and to have done that, they would have had to go through at least Carolina or Virginia.
Yeah.
So one of those 3 teams.
It's Carolina. It's both for them.
Yeah, and one of those 3 teams will not get a number 1 seed. They're not going to give 3 1 seeds to an ACC schools.
It's going to be weird. Okay, hold on.
The team that should not get one but probably will is Gonzaga because they just got beat by St. Mary's and lost their tournament. And they were on a crazy win streak, but they don't play anybody. So they beat Duke early in the year, but that's really about it. And so, in my opinion, they should not get a 1 seed, but I'm afraid they still will.
Okay, so hold on for a second. Like with the seeds in the ACC. So I think currently, so Gonzaga was number 1 up until like 2 days ago, right?
Yes.
But the top 5 teams in the country, Duke, Carolina, Kentucky, Virginia, Gonzaga.
Yes.
Right. You have 3 of those teams.
Yep.
Right. 3 of those teams all in the ACC.
Yep.
Right. And man, they might have to. They're probably. Duke plays if they both win today, Duke plays Carolina tomorrow or Saturday, one of the days, you know?
Yep.
And then the winner of that game is most likely, unless Virginia doesn't get upset, is going to have to play Virginia.
Right.
So those top 3 of the top 5 teams, they're only going to play each other. I hate, my biggest pet peeve with sports is like when the number 1 plays the number 2 team and then the number 2 team falls back to number 7.
It doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make any sense. We said they were better.
Right.
It doesn't mean it doesn't mean the number 3 team is better than that number 2 team.
Yeah, the only time that makes sense is if they get run out of the gym. So the first game of the season, I hate to bring this up because this kills me, but Kentucky played Duke and we got beat by 30, and we were ranked ahead of Duke. They dropped us several spots, So, but that's the only time that really makes sense.
Early in seasons, or I get early in seasons, but dude, maybe you just had a bad night.
Yeah,
this isn't like the football, like NCAA football, where one loss really can matter.
That's right.
There's so many few games. Dude, how many games do these kids play? Like 30, almost 40 by the end of the year.
Yeah, 40 if you go all the way to the championship game.
Come on, man, one off night, and they play a lot, right? It's not like football; they don't play once a week,
twice a week.
They play twice a week, every week.
Yep.
So anyway, I think all of our teams, me, you, and Troy, is my guess. No, not Duke. Duke's not going to get it. They're going to lose.
I think Duke, and by the time this airs, it might be done. But I think Duke, who plays, I think Syracuse tonight, they could lose easily to Syracuse tonight. I don't know.
Zion's back, though.
He's back, but Syracuse beat Duke with Zion earlier in the year, and they got that zone that throws people off, and Duke can't shoot. So we'll see. We'll see. The thing that will get tricky is if Carolina gets beat by Duke with Zion, and then Duke turns around and beats Virginia for the third time.
Right.
So now you're going to look at Carolina beat Duke twice without Zion and lost to him once with, and you're going to give a 1 seed to Virginia over Carolina.
But Virginia and Carolina split in the year, right?
Yes, I think that's correct.
Yeah, it's interesting.
So it could get weird.
Yeah, it could get real weird. All right, man. Thanks for doing this.
Yeah, buddy. This was a blast. Anytime.
All right.
Have a good one.
I'll talk to you later. All right, guys. Thanks for listening to this episode of The Gospel Fire. Don't forget to check me out on all of my social media at FireMarshal205. Again, at FireMarshal205. Go to my YouTube channel. FireMarshal01, that is, for YouTube, where you can follow. I'm making these videos 100K strong. That's the goal for the year. I want 100,000 strong listeners to the Gospel of Fire. So I'm trying to make a video a week so that you guys can follow along on my journey of how I go about my day, some things that I talk about, some things that I try to work on for myself. And then finally, don't forget my website, EliotMarshall.com, where you can get up to date with everything that has to do with me personally, the Gospel of Fire. You're going to find all about my book release, also called The Gospel of Fire, February 12th. It will be for sale on Amazon that whole week for 99 cents. So all that information at EliotMarshall.com. Thanks again for listening. Thanks to my sponsors, Evo Labs and On It. So that's it, guys. Hope you enjoyed the episode.